Hello everyone and welcome back to Her Creative Freedom podcast. I am very excited to record this podcast today because Steve and I are here to talk about the first trip that we've taken together, the first 2 weeks in the van together. We have lots of stories to tell. If you are listening on just the podcast today, we do have a video going as well for my YouTube channel. So hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel as well. You can find the link to my channel in the description of this podcast episode. So today is the last day of our trip and we go home after this podcast. So everything that we are about to talk about is completely fresh as we can remember it to be. We do have notes in front of us, just make sure we don't forget anything, because right from the beginning, the first week of our trip, we experienced a lot in one go. We pretty much tested everything we have in this van to find out that it's broken and then it can be fixed. So we have lots of stories to tell. So thanks for joining me on this episode, Steve.
Thank you for having me on the trip.
Okay, so let's get started with Departure Day.
Departure Day was a very uncertain day.
Oh my gosh, yeah. See, I forget until we talk about it. We basically got the van and then we were supposed to leave the next day, which was stressful for me because I had, again, story of my life, I'd had an expectation of how I wanted the van to look before we went. Mm-hmm. So, long story short, I spent the entire day getting it ready. We were going to leave that morning at 9 a.m. and ended up leaving at 4:30, 5 o'clock p.m. on the day of departure.
But I'm glad that we did it that way instead of leaving in the morning and not being fully set up. Because you were still you were still working on setup stuff right up until the point we left.
Yeah. But that's okay. So yeah, we knew we had a 6-hour drive ahead of us, so we left from Edmonton and we're driving 6 hours to Golden to stay the night in Golden, and we got to Golden around midnight.
Yeah. It was pitch black setting up.
We had no idea where we were staying. We were going up this log road for a very long time and we didn't know where we were until the next morning, which was honestly beautiful. But yeah, it was quite the adventure at first for sure. The next morning we stayed in Golden. Tell me if I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, I'll keep you on track.
We got to Golden, went to bed, woke up. Coffee was the first thing that we usually do.
Opening up the van door was the first thing I remember. And when we went to bed, it was pitch black. Couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And then that next morning, seeing the mountains backdrop, and you've got the drone footage of it, but the mountains backdrop with the fog rolling across.
So much fog.
It was literally something out of a movie. And that previous night, we had no idea that where we were staying was so picturesque.
And very open. We were surrounded by trees, but it was beautiful. So yeah, it was amazing. It was a really good first stop, and I'll have all this information on my website and also on my Instagram, so you can find the locations where we slept on my social media. Just the fire alarm going off and the car breaking down, and we'll get into all of that. So the morning we woke up in Golden, we went to make coffee. The collapsible kettle that I have does not have an automatic off button when the water is boiled, so we just let it go, and I didn't know that at the time, so it was boiling and coming out of the kettle, and I quickly shut it off, but it did set off the fire alarm. So
the fire alarm works.
We learned very quickly that the fire alarm on my roof works, which is always a good feeling to have, I guess, knowing that it works, that it was installed.
A little shocking though.
Yeah, it was a little shocking, very scary. So that was that, and we got up in Golden and then continued our trip. And when did we went
straight from Golden to Kelowna.
To Kelowna. So we were in Kelowna for a couple days. Kelowna, we were excited because I have an induction stove for the van, and that's what we were going to use to cook all of our food. Have hot meals. It was going to be great. Save money on meals for dinner, etc., etc. And we went to go use the stove and it didn't work, and it said it was working but it wasn't heating up. It just wasn't working.
Yeah, at the state it is right now, it turns on, it registers that it's working, but when you put the magnetic pan or pot onto it, it just won't heat up.
It won't heat up. So
we don't know if it's a power issue or if it's a stove issue, but
yeah, and a lot of people that live in a van that I personally know don't use induction stoves. I do know people that have, though, and it worked for them, so I bought a similar one that I know has been used in a van before. So I don't know why it's not working, because I bought what I thought was correct for power and all that stuff, but it's not working. So it could be a power thing. I'm not sure, but we'll figure that out. So basically, now knowing very early on in our trip that we don't have a stove to cook hot meals, we did eat out a couple times. By choice, though, we wanted to.
We wanted to experience vegan restaurants in BC.
In the area, yeah. And other times we ate a ton of veggies. I mean, thank God we're vegan. That helped. But eating salads
every day,
stir fries every day, and we had our oatmeal and stuff in the morning. So
we got by quite well, but it would have been nice. Like a luxury item would have been the stove.
Yeah, and it wasn't like we got by and struggled or suffered through it. Like, it was totally enjoyable. Fine. It was fine. Again, thank God that we're vegan, because having to, like, I don't know, buy meat every other day, because that's a lot of people's main source of protein. It would have been costly and just, like, super inconvenient. But yeah, so that always helped. Okay, the drone. Ugh.
Okay, well, can we go into the sleep spot first for Kelowna? Because, like, that was... If we're going order of events, that sleep spot was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, you can talk about that. Can you speak up a little bit more?
Of course. So on Overlander, we were kind of just finding pins, and the golden pin was like 100%. It was amazing, and it was everything we wanted it to be. And we went to Kelowna. There was really no good parking within East Kelowna or West Kelowna.
That's free.
That's free.
Yeah.
It was always in a Walmart parking lot or a Save on Foods parking lot. So the one pin that we found was just outside of West Kelowna in like a hilly region. And it was beautiful. Like when you drive up, you kind of have no idea where you're going. You would never find it by accident, because it was like through a construction site and then up through a logging road. Bypassed some residential areas.
Yeah.
And then we just came into this clearing where the trees were, and there were some other van lifers, and it was
lots of dirt biking.
Lots of dirt biking, and it was just a nice open treat area where we could just
it was
set up
a
shop.
nice open space in the woods. But for those who don't know what Overlander is, it's basically an app that you can download on your phone that gives you, people will go and put like a pin at a location that they've stayed at overnight or not overnight. So when you go on there, you can go on the map, search the area in the world that you're living in, where you're going to, and it will pop up apps or pins on the map of whether it's overnight parking, what kind of overnight parking, maybe you can't park there overnight, and it'll give you reviews and photos. It's so informative, and that is where we checked like 98% of the time where we were sleeping. So it's an incredible app for people who live in a van or who just want to go somewhere remote and you don't want to stay in a campground, or you don't want to pay for overnight stay anywhere. It's a very, very useful app. So if I can, I'll put the link to the app for your phone right there, and you can check it out, but I highly recommend using that for sure.
Even this morning I told you I'll never pay for camping parking again. Like, this is so beautiful and so off the map that you just have to experience it.
Yeah, it's really, really great. So that's something that you can always utilize. So yeah, we stayed in Golden, and then in Kelowna. Where we stayed in Kelowna, was that the drone situation?
Yeah, so that next morning when we woke up,
we were going for a walk, and this was the most devastating thing of my trip at the beginning of my trip. But so we have a drone, and we wanted to fly it pretty much in every destination we slept at. We wanted to fly the drone just to kind of get footage of all the locations that we were at. I'm a newbie when it comes to maneuvering a drone, and I was doing quite well at the beginning. I got a little bit overconfident, I'm gonna say, and we were flying the drone on just like a walking path. A bunch of trees were around us, of course, because we were in a treed area, and I was filming the drone kind of walking with us, but it was behind me, so I was watching the drone camera on my phone, on my remote control, but I wasn't actually looking at the drone device behind me until it flew, or I flew it right into a tree, and it got muffled into a bunch of tree branches and then fell
about 15 feet
onto the ground.
Yep.
So now we have a very broken drone that we thought we could fix.
Well, at first it just felt like, or it looked like, a piece of the plastic had chipped off, which you were upset about, but I'm like, hey, it's a minor defect. And then we realized the gimbal was broken, and that was the devastating part.
Yeah, because
you can't film footage.
Yeah, you just can't use the camera if the gimbal's broken. Because it was lopsided at first, and that was fine, but then it like got stuck and it just like wasn't working. So I would say the first devastating thing about the trip was the drone. I was so upset because there was so much in my brain that I wanted to capture on this drone of the beautiful places in the earth that we were going to be staying around and on and in. So that was the first thing. And then that was in Kelowna. From Kelowna we went to Vancouver.
Well, before we go to Vancouver, showering at a gym, that experience?
Yeah, that was Kelowna, yeah. So, yeah, that's actually really good information. I was with Good Life for many years, and loved the gym. There's nothing bad about Good Life to say, per se. But Good Life memberships are generally regional, like per city, per province. You can get Canada. Is Good Life even in the States?
I think it's a Canadian company, but I could be wrong.
I think it's a Canadian company too, but if anyone knows different, please let us know. So I was with Good Life for a while, and then I canceled the membership when the pandemic happened. Now, I, and along with Steve, is with Anytime Fitness.
Yep.
And the huge benefit when I was kind of like deciding, do I want to cancel Good Life? Do I want to go with Anytime Fitness? Because I've known Good Life forever. Is that Anytime Fitness, first of all, is cheaper per month. It's also nationwide, so whether you're in Canada or you're in the States, you can go to this gym wherever. And it's not specifically to your city or your region or your province. You can use that one membership that's like $40 a month.
We should be sponsored by them.
Seriously, sponsor us. Yeah, it's like $40 a month. It's nationwide, and a lot of times it's a 24-hour gym, so you can go in at any time to take a nice hot shower. Generally, they are very clean washrooms.
Yeah.
And if you get lucky, you can sleep in the parking lot. That really depends on where you are, for sure. But they
don't have, like, on all their reviews, they don't have a set policy around overnight parking, so it's kind of a gray area. As long as you're respectful and you only stay a night, I think it's gonna be fine.
I also just think it's depending on like where you are in the city. Like Vancouver, Anytime Fitness, like
there was no parking lots.
No. There was no parking lot that was going to allow you to stay overnight, whether you are a gym membership member or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Kelowna, it was nice to be able to stay in the parking lot, have a shower. We also did work out, and they have Wi-Fi if you're a member. So if it's decent Wi-Fi, we could sit in the van and do some work. Other places were not so great, but that is an option if you need Wi-Fi, want to work out, want to have a hot shower, want to sleep. It's literally perfect.
The gym was like a highlight because just that refresh before getting back on the road was amazing. Yeah,
like we have a portable shower here. We have the wilderness to use the washroom. We also have a little bit of a mini porta potty to use if we wanted to, but to have a hot shower where, I mean, water's unlimited, but we respect that as well for sure and do not take it for granted anyway. It was really nice.
100%.
So yeah, that was really good to do in Kelowna before we got onto the road. Went to Vancouver, and Vancouver was amazing. The drive in Vancouver was amazing. The biggest thing to note...
Are we on Vancouver Island now?
We're in Vancouver. Yeah, so we went from Kelowna to Vancouver straight to the ferry. So we didn't actually stay in Vancouver just yet, but we will definitely touch on that. So we went straight to the ferry to go to Nanaimo. Was that the drive to the ferry? No, that was in the ticket. Nanaimo.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to Nanaimo. We stayed overnight. Gosh, I don't even remember where in Nanaimo.
Truck stop, or just like the overnight stop.
Oh, the rest stop, right. So when we got to Nanaimo, I was driving, and he came out of nowhere. This police officer on the side of the road came out of nowhere. He had binoculars on. He must have had binoculars, but anyways, I'm not going to go into detail on that, but I did get an over $300 ticket, and let me tell you, if you're an Albertan or not from BC and you get a ticket, the payment process is quite confusing, but like kind of inconvenient. When you're in Alberta and you get a ticket, you can go online and pay it, or go to any registry. Maybe it was just like because it was a licensing ticket.
Yeah.
So you have to go to this building. You can't pay in person. It's by mail or in person, and it was just like a very inconvenient situation. But without going into detail, it was a learning experience for me.
We take it as a sign of that $300 ticket could prevent some negative occurrence later on in the future. It was either
Yeah.
that ticket or something bad happened in the future. So
Exactly. So don't speed, everyone. Go the speed limit.
100%.
So yeah, that was an unexpected purchase when you are on the road living in a van and you're like, I'm going to save money. It's just like a very inconvenient purchase. And yeah, so just make good choices when you're driving. Yeah, so then we stayed in Nanaimo one night and then made our way to Euclid. I'm not going to say that right.
Euclid.
Yuki, apparently that's what the cool people say. Hopefully that's right because I don't want to offend anyone. But IN Tofino, we were going to the island. Our final destination was Tofino, Vancouver Island, Yuki, that area. So we knew that we were going to be getting into that area at night quite late. But again, we looked on iOverlander to find a logging road.
It was just like a service road.
It was a service road, but it was very popular. Actually, this wonderful couple on my Instagram who also live in their van with their dog told me about this location. So yeah, we took it up and it was awesome. It was awesome because it was friendly for vans. It wasn't awesome because the
logging and construction trucks.
Yeah, do you want to explain that situation?
So it's a gray area. The logging road is crown land, so nobody owns it. It's close to a native reserve, and it's also very popular for overnight stayers. And nobody really owns the area. So the logging trucks that were coming through at 7 a.m. were upset because they have all these vans parked on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And so they were ripping down this gravel road, kicking up all this dirt, all the rocks, and just waking everybody up super early. And you could just tell they were frustrated that we were there. But again, it's crown land, so nobody really owns it.
And apparently from people that have stayed there more than once had told us that it's been going on for about a year where you are allowed to stay there, but the construction workers
make your life a little more difficult.
Do not like it. So when I was outside of the van the next morning, I was literally watching like bucket trucks drive by, put their bucket down on the gravel road just to like cause chaos in the air essentially, and make their way. Or they're like huge construction like pickup trucks.
They're like, they carry rocks, so they're huge.
Yeah, they're very big construction trucks, and they just rip past you. Like because we got there when it was pitch black, we parked on as far on the side of the road as possible, but every time a car went by, I like cringed and I was like, please don't hit us. Like,
that was the most unrestful sleep I had on this trip, because I had this eerie feeling every time somebody drove by that we
were gonna
could
get hit.
But
because
thankfully we didn't get hit.
We thought that they weren't gonna see the car, but that night before we like went to bed, I had to pee. So I went outside, did my thing, and I saw that my van lights were on. The like very dim lights. And I was like, that's kind of weird, but they must have come on because I opened the sliding door, and they'll just turn off when I go back in. So the next morning, we learned that we saved our life.
Because nobody hit us.
Because nobody hit us. And nobody hit us because they saw us because I
left the lights on.
Left the exterior lights on. So the lights that I thought I saw, or that I thought were on because of the sliding door, were actually on because I just forgot to turn the lights off in general, which means we went to start the van to leave, and the van was completely dead.
I'm thankful for the culture around van lifers, because they were all very helpful. We knocked on 2 different vans, one to our front, one to our back.
It was 3.
3. The other guy didn't answer, so 2 out of 3.
No, because it was the guy in front of us, the guy behind us, and then I walked to get the cable cords.
Yeah.
I do have, and this is on my website as well, and I still recommend getting this. Well, I do recommend getting something of this, but I have like a
booster pack.
A booster pack. And I highly recommend one, especially if we were stranded and nobody was near us. Like, that would be so handy.
Yeah.
So get a booster pack for sure. I do have one. The issue is that my cables are a little bit short, and generally in a car, actually, this would not be a problem, because when you boost a car, it's, you know,
positive and
negative on your battery. I don't even know why I don't know this already before we even started this journey, because this is my van and whatever, but you learn as you go.
Yeah. Transits, the battery is located
under the driver's seat, which again I feel like I should have known, but I didn't. know that. So the battery of a Transit, at least mine, is under the driver's seat. Your positive and negative are still under your front hood, but positive is like on one end and negative is on the complete opposite other. So the issue with that is my cable cords did not reach positive and negative. So then we were like,
now
what do we do now? I will put something on my Instagram and my website about exactly where the positive and negative is, even if it's the link to the YouTube channel that
that saved our lives.
That saved our lives because it was so helpful. But it's definitely something to take note of if you don't already know and you have a Transit. Whether a 2020 and up is the same as the later versions or whatever, I don't know, but I'm gonna make sure that in the description of this episode and my YouTube video it's there, so, because it was really helpful.
In layman's terms, the positive is still a red port in the center underneath the hood, but the negative is just a bare piece of grounding metal on the extreme right hand side of the hood, where the hood ends. So you would have never, we had 3 different guys looking at it and we're all scratching our heads saying, where is the negative?
Yeah, and we found what we needed to know out by YouTube.
Typically you can ground a battery to any metal surface, but the instruction manual that we have in the van said do not do any other grounding surface but
Did it really?
Course. Yeah, that's why I was like, the gentleman who stopped, Chris, shout out to Chris.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like, you can just ground it to the hood, but in the instruction manual it says do not ground it to the hood.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't do that then, because that would have been terrifying. Yeah. And then that pretty much brings us into our destination when we went to Yuki. A very cute community, small.
1,000 people.
Yeah, but it was really cute. We went to a cafe. It was really nice. They have a harbor, which was beautiful. And Nanaimo's harbor is also very beautiful. Like, to walk around there and the seawall, I guess we'll call it, was outstandingly beautiful.
Reminded you of Nova Scotia.
Yeah, it totally does. And because I grew up there, it was like going back to Halifax Harbor. And just that smell of the air with the seawater, oh my gosh, salt water, and seeing all the starfish and all the stuff, it was really cute. So Nanaimo was fun. And then after Yuki, we went into Tofino, and oh my goodness, anyone listening to this podcast or watching the video that's been to Tofino will just completely know what we are talking about. But I'm so glad that we did this trip and we went there. Tofino has been a bucket list destination for me that I never thought I would have the opportunity or chance to go to. But I'm so glad that we did.
It was like it felt like Mexico. It felt like you were in a different country. It
was unreal, and unfortunately we didn't go surfing, which I feel like we're gonna get hate for, because you just have to go surfing if you go there, and I do agree.
Why didn't we go surfing?
Because we have our babies with us, which I don't think we've mentioned yet, but we have Hera, Steve's dog, and of course Tucker with us. And I personally just didn't feel comfortable with leaving them in the van and us going surfing when this trip is about all of us, and that just would have been a long time with them just like stuck in the van, and they're our babies, so they come everywhere with us. They're our shadows. So before we went to Tofino and we were doing some research of where we were going to stay, because ideally we didn't want to pay anywhere to stay, but we knew
that was the goal.
Yeah, that was the goal, but at some point we knew that we would have to. We were told by everyone, I do have friends that live on the island, we have friends that have been to the island, and they did say you will not find parking anywhere.
Overnight parking in Tofino.
Yeah, anywhere. Overnight free parking in Tofino. Yeah. And the reason being that I was told from people that actually live there is that van lifers before me, when it was a little bit more van life friendly there, kind of ruined it for everyone, because they would go there in their van, sleep somewhere, trash wherever they slept, and being that Tofino is quite small, the locals obviously did not appreciate that. So because of the conditions that previous people treated the island in that area, it's very much not van life friendly. Like, obviously as humans we are welcome there, but we are not welcome there to stay anywhere we want overnight. So your options really are to stay completely out of Tofino or to get a campsite. Which,
just for security, we chose the campsite because we didn't know the island. We didn't want to get there in the middle of Labor Day long weekend-ish and not have a place to stay.
Yeah, the security of the guarantee. I definitely wanted that guarantee place where we could sleep. And honestly, I'm so grateful that we did, because it was so nice. When you actually book, so there was Surf Grove Campground is where we stayed, and their minimum that you can book for is 3 nights. The other one is called it was like Costa Bella or something. I'll put it in the link, because those two are like the most popular. But I'm glad that we did that, because it was so nice to stay in one place for 3 days, and we weren't constantly having to like see where we're going to stay next. It was just a guarantee. And the camp site that we had was beautiful. It was the perfect lot for a van and dogs and tons of space, and we were surrounded by trees. And then we were walking distance from Cox Bay Beach, which was beautiful, and very close to Long Beach as well. So it was pricey, but I'm glad that we did it. I do not regret it.
Most expensive camping ever, but it was well worth it.
Do you want to say how much it was?
It was $500 for 3 nights.
Yeah. And I honestly feel like that might have just been because of
like peak season.
Peak season. You also want to book it at least 2 weeks ahead of time, and we did not do that.
No.
So it may have been that it was just like really booked up. We booked probably maybe a week, I would say, beforehand.
Week
so that could have been why. But I do not regret it at all. It was beautiful.
You brought up Cox Bay. So Long Beach is what everybody, like if you're going to Tofino, you go to Long Beach.
You go to Long Beach for the sunset and the surfing. And we only really got 1 day, maybe 2 days of sun when we went there, and we were not surfing. So I'll let you continue, because I know where you're going with this.
Well, for us, when we got to Long Beach, yes, it's beautiful. Yes, I can appreciate probably the sunsets are beautiful, but it wasn't dog friendly. Dogs had to be on a leash. Mm-hmm. We wanted to fly the drone. It was a provincial park or a national park, so you couldn't fly the drone. So Cox Bay, just as beautiful, seemed to be just as good at surfing, and dogs can be off leash. And we got to fly the drone. We got some sick footage. So I think it was, like, for me, Cox Bay was the better of the two destinations.
Yeah, I think comparing the two, Long Beach was beautiful for the sunset, and I can see why. Those pictures are beautiful. Like, it's just an unreal experience to be on Long Beach when the sun is setting. It's breathtaking. The huge disadvantage for us is that dogs have to be on the leash, although I'm sure people don't. We just chose to follow the rules, I guess.
There wasn't a single off-leash dog that we saw, though.
There wasn't. And Hera doesn't like being on the leash.
Well, yeah, she's a free spirit.
She's a better off-leash dog. And then, of course, we did want to fly the drone and get some beautiful footage there, too. So Long Beach was beautiful for the sunset. I'm so glad that we enjoyed the walk of that beach and that, but for the dog's sake and our creative side sake, we didn't quite enjoy it as much as Cox Bay. And Cox Bay is literally walking distance from where we were sleeping, so that was a huge convenience
factor.
Yeah, because we didn't have to drive 10 minutes down the road. It was right there, and the only sign that was really on that beach was no campfires, so dogs could be off leash. We got to fly the drone. We could pretty much do anything except for have a fire. So yeah, that was nice. We got at least 1 day of a beach day with the sun, so it was really nice. And
how did running into the ocean feel?
It was beautiful. It was freezing, but I wanted to mention that obviously the water, and we went at like the end of summer.
Yeah.
Like it is September, so of course it is going to be colder in general than
anybody in the water was
June,
in a
July,
full wetsuit, like including a headpiece.
Yeah,
so.
That's what they weren't wearing headpieces.
Yeah, they were. Just a little round circle face was showing.
I didn't see that, but that's okay. But yeah, that's what I was going to mention, was that everybody was wearing a wetsuit because the water is freezing. But we did say prior to actually going there that I said before the trip that I was going to go swimming every day, and I was so excited to swim every day and like bathe in Mother Earth's water, and I didn't do any of that because it was freezing. But I did. We both kind of convinced each other, YOLO'd it, and ran into the Pacific, right?
Yeah.
Pacific Ocean, and dived in and said we got wet. So it was very cold, and I can understand why everyone was wearing a wetsuit. The other thing that I can appreciate, actually, because I love the water, is that it's beach day every day in Tofino.
Yeah.
Whether it was
raining,
sunny and beautiful, or raining and gray, people were in the water surfing, and I do appreciate that, and I love that being that I do love the water.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So, I definitely will go back to Tofino. It was a great little community. It was beautiful. The drive is amazing. It's a tight road covered by a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
Like
sharp turns and steep hills.
Yeah, and I'm actually gonna mention that if you are driving to Tofino for the first time, the street is very windy, it's very curvy, and there are signs that say slow, and I just recommend to not be naive to that, because if you aren't going slow enough, I could understand why accidents could happen. Yeah. Maybe potential death could happen, because some of those corners are pretty steep.
They're like pin hair turns.
Yeah, especially if you're in a van or something of a heavier vehicle. I would say drive with caution, especially at night, because
being from Alberta, when they say 50 kilometers, you can drive 60 or 70 and take a turn, no problem. Yeah. But when it says 30 in Tofino, you take it at 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, overall, it was a great trip. Highly recommend taking the drive to Tofino. It was amazing. Now, just to touch on going from, obviously, Steve and I are together just over a year now. Mm-hmm. We don't live together. I live in the van, but I reside at my mom's house also, and then he lives at his condo. So going from not living together to living together for just over 2 weeks in the van and 2 dogs.
It was a learning experience.
Yeah, we'll talk about that experience a little bit.
The biggest thing is just understanding and granting each other and giving each other the space and time each day to do your own thing. Whether it's a half hour of your own time and space or more, it's just nice to have that reset. And I think we realized that halfway through the trip. Because for the first 5 or 7 days, 24 hours a day, we were side by side, and there was just, you're working in a very small space. The kitchen and the kitchen sink are half a foot apart.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of space to move around.
It was just navigating the space, and I wouldn't say by any means, yes, we felt the small quarters, but I don't feel any negative energy towards it. But it's definitely something that you have to consider beforehand, that you will be spending 24 hours together in a very small space. And then we have 2 dogs, and we have a big dog, and then we have a small dog. So just navigating the cleanliness and everything, it definitely is a learning experience. Communication is huge. What I took away is that communication is huge, and I 100% agree with your comment about taking your own space, which I felt like I didn't do enough of, and we kind of realized that through the end of the trip, because I personally felt not guilty, but like we were here together, we were on this trip together, and I didn't take the time and space that I felt like I needed, or we both probably could have used, because I knew that we were on this trip together, and
we're 2 very extremely independent people cohabitating in a very small space.
Yeah, and obviously we love being together, hence why we are on this trip together, but we also very much like our own space. And I think not just when you're traveling, but every day, all day, for the rest of your life, everyone needs their time and everyone needs their space, and it's so incredibly important to take that. So if I could do it again, or when we do it again, or recommend it to someone who is wanting to rent a van and go somewhere with your significant other, kids, dogs, pets, anything, take that time that you need.
To give a shout out to your van design for a second, the way that you design this space creates 4 distinct rooms. The cabin up front is the driving space and our office. Then you've got the kitchen space and kind of like the sink cleaning space. The bedroom, and then when the rear doors are open and the rear table's pulled out, that's our dining room. And the more you utilize those spaces, the less tight this space actually feels.
Yeah, and I appreciate the pocket wall with the door that I have to separate the 2, because when the door's closed, you can't hear anything. It's very well
built.
Yeah. So when you need your space, you definitely have that. But overall, I think it was a cool experience to travel all of us together and navigating the dogs and stuff, because it adds another responsibility. And Hera is a lab retriever, so she's not tiny, but she's not huge, mind you. And she also sleeps.
She's currently twitching.
She's dreaming. Look at her. She's smiling. But yeah, so navigating the dogs and stuff, it was just it was an experience for sure. But overall, an amazing trip. We had tons of fun. And I think, aside from the fun and everything, we definitely learned a little bit more about each other, learned about what it's like to travel and what we need. We probably wouldn't have known how important taking our own space is until we got here. And I feel like I learned a lot about myself, because I like things to be particular and have things in places, and I can be a little bit rigid sometimes, but it's learning to just flow and allow whatever is to be is as it is. And just being on the road in general, personally for myself, I think I'm going to learn a lot about myself and learn about what really matters and what doesn't and what can wait.
And just to appreciate and recognize the transition you've made through the course of the trip. I'm a guy. I could sometimes put things in the wrong spot or not think about things before I do it and realize after the fact that, hey, I probably could have done that differently. At the beginning of the trip, some of those things really seem to bother you, but by the end of the trip, I can even notice that, somehow my socks ended up in the sink this morning. I don't know. I don't remember putting them there.
I'm not even going to talk about your feet on the podcast.
I'm not going to talk about other things, but I appreciate the fact that you have been more open-minded to just being a little bit more loose and less rigid.
It's a learning experience. It comes with, perfectionism is a real thing, and it's not always a good thing. Something that you have to work on if you are a perfectionist unknowingly. And a year or 2 years ago, I would not have said I'm a perfectionist until I learned about myself, and I was like, damn, shit, I'm a perfectionist. And it's something that you definitely want to work through to manage, because it can take a lot out of you.
And having expectations for things the way that you want them to play out, and sometimes the way they play out is the way they're meant to play out, but it's not how you envisioned it, and that doesn't make that wrong. There's still some things that need to be done with the van when we get home, and before you can go on the road again, and that's not a bad thing. That's just part of the van life.
Yeah, part of the process is what it is. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Some of the other points that we wanted to mention was Wi-Fi spots. We kind of did already with the gym. Obviously, cafes in smaller areas will have Wi-Fi. With the pandemic, it does make a little bit of a difference of where you can sit, where you can't sit, where Wi-Fi is going to be good and where it isn't. But the one place...
Let's give a massive shout out.
...that surprised me was Co-op.
Any Co-op. So Co-op hardware, Co-op foods... They have a Co-op guest Wi-Fi.
Is it any Co-op?
Any Co-op. We tried 3 different ones.
We were at the gas station and the grocery store.
Gas station, grocery store, as well as a hardware store.
Where did we go to a hardware store?
Remember the first one we parked and we walked across the street and we told the guys, say, we're not going to this one, we're going to the other one? I pulled up Wi-Fi there too.
I guess it is the same company.
Same company. But their guest Wi-Fi is amazing.
Yeah, I was trying to upload my latest YouTube video and I was on the gym Wi-Fi. And this particular gym's Wi-Fi was super, super slow. So then we went to Tim Hortons, which Timmy's also usually has pretty decent Wi-Fi. I have been in the States and pulled up in my car and connected to the Tim Hortons or even McDonald's Wi-Fi, and it usually works pretty good. But this particular Tim Hortons, I think we were in Nanaimo, was not working. So then I was trying to upload this video for 3 days. Using trying to navigate different Wi-Fis, and then we connected to, it was at 66%. We connected to Co-op's Wi-Fi and it went from 66 to 100 in
3 minutes.
Not even. It was a minute and a half. It was so quick. So that was great for me to learn, especially when I am on the road by myself and I need Wi-Fi, and I'm gonna need to work, and I do. Co-op Wi-Fi is where it's at.
100%.
It was so great. I was so shocked, and I had no idea. So that was definitely a huge learning thing for me. But overall, one of the things we wanted to do was try out vegan restaurants. Cactus Club is in Kelowna, and has kind of always been one of our favorite places for many reasons, but they do have a decent vegan item menu. Yeah. So we had that a couple times. Different places that we enjoyed was Rhino Coffee House in Tofino. They have, you will, when you go to Tofino and you look up coffee, they will be the number one that stands out because everyone will tell you to go there. But Rhino Coffee House is famous for their donuts. They only had one vegan option, but they are famous for their donuts, and their coffee was amazing. Dirty chai is where it's at for us, and they had an amazing dirty chai, so we were really happy with that. The other vegan place that was in Tofino was... what's it called?
Bravocados.
Again, probably a really popular place. If you were to look up restaurants or ask the locals, they would probably tell you to go there. But
vegan onion rings.
It was fully vegan. Vegan. It was fully vegan. It was so good. I would definitely go there again for sure. Very healthy selections. Of course, your like deep fried options as well. But
and we went to Vancouver and Yaletown. We went to Meet, MEET.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about that. So after Tofino being our destination, we went to go visit my dad, who's currently for the next couple months in Vancouver because he's there and he's working. They wanted to be located somewhere where it was walking distance for pretty much everything that they needed. So they are in the heart of Vancouver. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe we haven't talked about this yet. They're in the heart of Vancouver, and let me tell you, if you live in a van, the heart of Vancouver is not van friendly. Like, you cannot park for free anywhere. Not that I was really expecting to, but it's just it's not for parking wise, it's not friendly, but driving wise, it was overwhelming. That city is so incredibly busy, but this is also coming from a girl who isn't a huge fan of very large, chaotic cities. I'm much better in the wilderness.
And just consider our state of minds. We just left Tofino of 2,000 people and a chill atmosphere. Yeah. And we were in downtown, the heart of Vancouver. Yeah. Can we tell the jaywalking story?
Yeah, we will tell that story. But just, that's a good point. We went from more our vibe in Tofino, slow, to Vancouver, which Vancouver City is beautiful. I enjoyed being there, but I could never live there. Driving the van there was so overwhelming. I felt out of place when we got there, but when it came to parking, we navigated. We had to move the car every 3 hours because the max parking limit was 3 hours, and then
you couldn't feed the meter, so you had to change meters.
Yeah, you couldn't pay on the same meter, so we had to find different meters. And then when it came to overnight, because we did want to stay with my dad, when you pay at only specific meters after 6 o'clock, you had it for the next 14 hours. So from after 6 until 9 a.m. you were allowed to park, but then at 9 a.m. you had to move again. So it was just like inconvenient overall, but I wouldn't have changed anything because I got to spend time with my family. But when we were there, we did stay at a fully go to a fully vegan restaurant. It was called Meet, MEET, and it was amazing. Yep. So good. Yaletown, you said?
I was in Yaletown, yeah.
Yeah, Yaletown is really good. Okay. What did you just say?
Jaywalking,
sorry. This was like my fault, but it's kind of funny at the end of the day.
Just left the island. We hadn't showered for a couple days.
We're running out of clean clothes.
We were out of clean clothes.
Well, you were.
Your outfit was pretty questionable.
I was not out of clean clothes, but I knew that when we went to go see my dad that we were going to be able to do laundry. So we are now from Tofino into Vancouver.
You were wearing moccasins, sweatpants, a long-sleeved Blue Jays or Chicago Bulls t-shirt. What was it?
No.
What was the t-shirt?
It was, I don't know, Toronto something. Raptors. I don't know.
Hair in a bun, and...
The point is, I looked homeless, okay? I looked dirty, I looked homeless, I had a backpack on the side of my shoulder, like, I did not look good. We wanted to, while we were waiting for my family to get off work and get to their condo so that we could be welcomed in and do laundry, etc., we went to an Anytime Fitness there, one that was downtown, parked on the road. We're going to the gym to work out and shower. But I was kind of just like in this, like, I don't live here. This is chaos. I'm overwhelmed. Just get me in the shower. I want to go for a run to like mentally clear my head, and let's just get into the gym. That we parked on the side of the road downtown. remember that I look homeless, and I was just going to jaywalk it because the gym is right in front of me. I don't want to walk down to the thing. I'm just going to go. So I just went, and at first it was great, but then I kind of like hopped over a medium to continue to go over the side of the road, and this car like slammed his brakes on because I was jaywalking, and if he didn't slam his brakes, he probably would have hit me because I didn't see him either. And I look over at this nice man who just slammed his brakes, and it was a police officer, and I was like,
I was waiting for the siren. I was just like walking,
the lights to go on.
Yeah. Whoop whoop.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, please don't. I just got a $300 ticket elsewhere. Like, I don't need this right now. And I know it was my fault. It was my stupidity. Call me out. I'm calling myself out. I'm very aware that what I did was not the right choice. But my theory here to why he did not stop me, aside from that fact that he probably had something more important to do, was that I looked so bad that he was like, you know what, this girl probably can't afford a ticket, so I'm just gonna let her keep going, keep on living her best street life. That he didn't stop me. No lights went on, no sirens went on. I did not get a ticket for jaywalking.
And then we went and had a shower.
And then we went into the gym, I went for a run, and we had a nice shower, and it was great. And then I was on the treadmill going for my run, just like looking out the big window. I like to, usually treadmills are by a window, so it was nice because I could see the van. But I look up ahead of me and realize that the police station is right in front of the gym.
Yeah.
Right in front of us. So it makes sense why the police officer was there. I'm so lucky and so grateful. Thank you, Mr. Police Officer, for not stopping me when I was jaywalking and being illegal. Yeah.
I love it.
So that was that experience.
I had a couple questions for you. Any moments with Tucker on the trip that kind of stand out as highlights or like bonding moments that you two shared?
I'm excited to be in this van with him because I think that we are going to create a bigger relationship and bonding experiences. I love that he loves this van. Mm-hmm. That is so important for me, and it was something that went through my mind of like, you know, what happens if I put all this money into my dream of living in a van and he doesn't like it? But he loves it. He has co-pilot. He can walk on the counters. I don't care if people think that's gross. Like, this home is his home just as much as it is mine, and he absolutely loves it, and that made me so happy and just kind of reassured things that, like, we are meant to be in here. 100%. So on the trip, I think one of the biggest things that stood out to me when it was like that bonding moment was when we had a little bit of a beach day on Cox Bay Beach, and me and him, he was off leash and he came with me, and we just ran and walked to the beach. Mm-hmm. And we did it together, and he was living his best life, and we kind of walked from one end and then ran the other end, and that was huge for me because usually sometimes if he's out and it's too busy, crazy, he gets a little bit nervous and just wants to be in his safety net at home. But he came with me, and it was awesome to be on the beach with him, and it was beautiful and pretty, and just seeing him also swim in the ocean water, because he's not a water dog, but he'll go in up into his belly. But his legs are like 2.5 inches tall, so it doesn't take long before his belly hits the water. But there were times where he went in and he was swimming and, again, living his best life. So those are probably highlight moments for me. And yeah, just sleeping with us in the bed and curling up under the covers, because at home he doesn't always do that. But it's like that comfort of him being under the covers with me up against my belly.
Looking back at your state of mind and who you were before this trip and now going home today,